Ladies and gents, welcome to the Abnormies podcast. I am Si. Joining me as always is Branda. What's happening, mate?
Oh, everything good. I love life.
All good. You've been
Everything.
very good the last few times that we've spoken. You haven't seemed to have been any depressive kind of mood. You've always been upbeat and positive.
Yeah, I don't know. Something happened. The moment I turned 40, everything fell into line, and now I feel like I'm a yogic Zen master. Just
Yeah,
everything is fun.
it was good turn. I guess I've mentioned it was good turn 40. I kind of lost all remaining inhibitions, which I had very few, but kind of the rest of them just left.
Yeah.
No, I don't care. So
I mean, you know that you're a good man, and
yeah,
you can give a shit
well,
about everything else.
I'm semi good, but yeah.
You're doing your best. You're
Yes, always doing my best.
on the
Always.
path.
Well, this episode, mate, we've got a guest.
Really?
Fucking actual real human being, but kind of
Oh,
human being.
cool.
A
Who is
guest.
it?
So this guy he has been on for all the UK fans. He has been on live at the BBC, Mock the Week, Russell Howard's Good News Show, live at the Apollo. He even had his own sitcom. I can't remember the name of it. I never watched it. To be honest, I'm an actor, and he didn't even ask me to be in it. So fuck him. But I think he's probably most well known in the UK for winning the 2010 Creased Comedy Xmas Factor Gong Show, which was an event in Newcastle I ran and hosted.
I never heard of that one. I heard of everything else.
It's very big in the UK. At least it was in the northeast of the UK in 2010 for 1 week. He won that, so I don't want to say that I launched his career, but essentially, here is the man whose career I launched. Ladies and gents, it's little Jonny Pelham.
Hello, Si.
Hello, mate.
How are you?
I'm
Hey,
good. How are
Johnny.
you, mate?
I'm good, yeah, not too bad. Another fun gong show, wasn't it, back in a decade ago?
Yeah, 12 years ago, mate.
Si he had a rapper character act called Biscuits, who was, and then we did a Edinburgh show together, didn't we, Si?
We did, mate. Funnily enough, you should mention that, Johnny. Just happened to have this. There we go. That was back when I was known as a different name. I changed that for various reasons. But there we are. There's little Johnny in the middle before the TV stardom. There's me laughing along, and there's another one of our friends, Lee. So yeah, that was. Would you say that was the highlight of your career so far, Johnny?
Without a doubt. What a time! What a month that was. Sleeping next to you, Si. One of us was sleeping in a cupboard, weren't they?
Yeah, Lee Kyle slept in a cupboard. You had the bed, and I slept on the floor.
It feels mad that I got the bed. How did I manage to get the bed?
I don't think I wanted to sleep in the bed.
Oh, I remember now. Yes, there were stains.
Yeah, there was stains, and I'm very fussy about cleanliness, and I didn't want to. I'd rather sleep on the floor. And I remember I used to lie in bed when you and Lee were asleep, gambling on my phone.
Good times. Good
time. I remember once you walked into me after you'd been out somewhere, and I was sitting in the flat, and I was watching a documentary on suicide. It's like what a way to enjoy the world's premiere comedy festival.
But it is an awful. The Edinburgh Festival is so long, isn't it? It's relentlessly, and we were staying. Yeah, that was good though, because we were staying a bit out of town, so you'd actually leave it. Whereas for most of the time, we just stay. I've stayed in the centre, and you just go mad a bit, don't you?
Yeah, it was definitely enduring. But you do it every bloody year, don't you?
Pretty well. I haven't done it in like 3 or 4 years because of the pandemic, old COVID. And I'm not doing it this year either. So, but I was meant to this year, but I've just decided not to.
Yeah, I remember also. Did we not get kicked out of one of the celebrity bars for being obnoxious to people?
Almost certainly. I mean, that sounds like us.
Yeah, and now you're part of that little celebrity clique. Now that you've been on the telly, I bet you that all adore little Jonny Pelham when he walks into the bar. Girls throwing themselves at you, and people offering
100%. I'm just burning $100 notes and shagging supermodels. That's what I do.
Cocaine and champagne.
Yeah. It's all about that.
Cool.
My name's actually Jonny Cocaine and Champagne Pelham now.
That's what you're known as, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're all about that life. Yeah. Well, Johnny, So I've obviously mentioned there that you're a big TV superstar nowadays. But let's go back to how it all started, where you're from, what your early life was, in a nutshell. Let's don't want all the details. But just a little brief introduction to Jonny Pelham.
Grew up in Bradford, which is like near Leeds. For people who don't know where Bradford is, it's a bit of a sort of it's one of those places that always gets voted like the fourth worst place to live in the UK. You know what I mean? It's always, it's in the top 10 always of worst places to live. I
That
quite
must
like
be
to
very
go.
bad.
What's that?
Then it must be very bad.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
Fourth
shithole to be
worst
fair.
Yeah.
I'm quite fond of it, but objectively, it's crap.
I mostly lived in Swanage, which I think is on the other side of the list.
I don't know Swanage. What's that like?
It's wonderful. I mean, it's kind of slow in the winter, but it's very Victorian and better to the mark of that era. And so the houses are nice. There's a nice Corfe Castle right by.
God,
Lots of meadows.
Sounds like you're smashing life, really. Maybe I'll move
Yeah.
to Swanage.
Completely different than where me and Johnny grew up. Different towns, but quite similar, I would imagine.
Yeah. So I grew up in Bradford. It had something called Popliteal ptergium syndrome, which is why I'm on the pod as an abnormal, which is essentially.
Say that again, because I didn't want to say that because firstly I can't say it. I could barely read it when you told me it. Can you say it again? What the
It's
symptom?
called pop as in pop, luteal as in luteal, and then pterygium syndrome. So like pterygium. So and it's basically just like an assortment of oddities. So I've got like a cleft lip, a cleft palate, webbed toes, walk on my tiptoes. None of which, all of which probably have had a bit of an impact, but none of which have massively impacted my life. I don't think.
Yeah. I learned about that at the university, and I remember finding it interesting, like this idea that you just don't fully complete the program. Like you weren't long enough in the oven somehow, and you come out and these parts which generally are open in all of us, and just because most people complete the program, they end up looking like we perceive the normal idea of humans. And then you have people who just don't fully close it up.
The normal idea of humans is a brutal description.
we don't pull back on punches.
That's the Icelandic and everything. The very
we
very
mean it all
frank.
well. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
but it's pretty. There's no bad intention behind it, and we love to be corrected. Like if I use the wrong pronoun on something, I want people to correct me and tell me that I'm how to speak correctly. English isn't my mother tongue, so I may be making silly mistakes every now and then, which are excusable by that always.
Oh yeah, you've got a funny little accent, Brand. That's fine. You get away with murder.
Learning French so I can like insult people and be like, sorry, that's just the French. That cunt.
You definitely get away with murder with a funny little accent if you're a funny little foreign. Of course
it's
you do,
true, isn't it?
And Branda, you're a foreign and you're a disabled, so you've got free reign, mate. You can say what you want, man.
All right.
You can make it your mission to be a disabled foreign person who's hated.
Yeah. So how does the web feet and cleft palate?
Yeah.
How does that relate? Is that like what Branda was saying, that it's like you're almost finished, all the odds and ends of getting finished, and then you're born.
He's finished. Just certain processes. Okay, no, sorry. You answer. I don't know.
So I mean, it sounds like you know more than me. Did you do like genetics at university or something? Because I've only got a very superficial understanding, which was basically the doctor said to me that it's like if you're writing, if there's your DNA was a novel, it's like every colon is a semicolon. Everything that's meant. So it's just like the DNA just got a bit fucked up when it was being written, but just a tiny mistake happened that then impacted all these various different areas slightly. But I don't. That might just be him trying to put it into terms I would understand.
No, I mean that's one way of describing it, but then that's genetics, and then
Yeah.
you have epigenetics, how the genes are actually expressed. So that's where my description comes from. Is like because there's some kind of error. I mean, it's not really an error; it's just a mutation in a DNA code, and this is a frequent one. So we see it many times. A lot of people have ones that aren't noticeable, but this one, for whatever reason, it just comes into certain processes that are part of our body becoming, the blueprint which the DNA, has. But for some reason, certain parts of the process just don't complete normally. So, well, the lip forms, I think, very late in life. So for some reason, it just stops a little bit earlier. And it's not just the lip, but it's like, the brain, the top of our skull, for example, is another one. That's a different syndrome. So it's kind of open and flexible so that we can get out of our mother's hoo. Can I call her hoo?
Is that why there's the soft remains a soft part like on the
Yeah,
skull thing?
it's
Skull
the
cap.
skull parts can slide together, and we come out, and then it falls back into place, and then for the first couple of days, it's kind of fully growing in a way, and sometimes it doesn't quite go as it should, and those children today just wear a helmet that kind of pushes into place. So yeah, it's kind of it's another. We should have a abnormie with a baby with a helmet. That would be cute.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
I
and then it's good.
One of the things I'm very happy about is apparently a lot of people who have what I have deformed testicles, and I don't want to brag or anything, guys, but my balls are a-okay. So
Yeah, I was reading the syndrome because I googled it. I was going to mention the genitals because you've never mentioned that before, Johnny. But I have heard that you've got a well proportioned set of genitalia. So
I've got a fabulous penile area. I'm glad to say for any women who are into web toes in a man. I've got a good cock as well.
I met you when you were obviously quite young. You were just out of school or college when you started comedy, and the difference in you facially and speech is completely different. Which we'll get into that a little bit later on. But going back to like childhood, was there any like bullying elements? How did it affect you at school? What was young life like for Jonny P?
So when I was like 7, I had to have surgery on my legs every 2 weeks for like 6 months, and because they couldn't, like, for some reason I had webbing on the back of my legs, and they couldn't cut it all at once because they were worried about something. So they'd cut it a bit and then stretch it, and then cut it a bit and stretch it. So I remember for like 6 months I was in a wheelchair for about 6 months. But when you're like 7 or 8, that's sort of great. You know what I mean? Because you're just like so it wasn't. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then at school, I think I also went to predominantly Asian school. Like I was only white by my form class, so there was like a bit of. But I sort of did fine because I was just funny. I think that's why I became a comedian. Really, like I would just laser train to try and fit into a group. 1, because I was a bit disabled. 2, because I was the only white guy. Clearly didn't fit in, so I would just got funnier. I would just take the piss out of other people better than they could take the piss out of me. And very much jump any weakness anyone showed. If there was a weak kid, I'd be the one really having a go at them.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that, especially with school life. Being a fat kid, you had to be razor tongued and quick. Definitely was. It was either be a bully or be bullied.
Totally, and so that's why, like, I feel like that I wasn't really bullied at school, and I sort of look back and that was an amazing achievement for me. You know what I mean? Like, I had so little going on for me. The fact I wasn't bullied is like a real sign of success, really.
Definitely. So after school life, what did you study? Because obviously I met you when you were studying. You were doing. I don't know how you got into comedy. We'll come to that. So what was your plans when you were? What did you want to be when you were a kid?
I didn't really know. I really went to Newcastle because I knew it was like me and Simon at Newcastle University. I really went there just because it was a good party city, and I sort of just wanted to, like, I had loads of mates who were Muslim who I got on with really well. Obviously, they didn't drink, and so a big part of going to Newcastle was like wanting to throw myself into just getting hammered and like doing all that
wrecked.
sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was doing I did international political, I did politics, economics and sociology, and then I did a master's in international political economy. But really, I was just sort of...
That sounds hilarious.
It's very funny stuff. And really, I was just sort of figuring out what I wanted to do. And then at uni, I just started doing comedy. And the great thing about comedy is, and you'll know this side probably, is that if you are a bit of an outsider, a bit of an oddball, it's sort of perfect, because then you've got more interesting shit to draw on than people who have had very conventional lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
So that was like my first act. My first set was about being, having more nipples than is ideal. All that. It was like my disability was a big part of my early act, really.
We'll get into that as well. Because I do remember the first time I saw you, just knowing instantly that you were going to make it. There was no. There was with a few of that people from your uni class. I'm not going to mention their names, but you were the one that stood out, and it was like, yeah, he's gonna make it. There was no question about it. But you did a joke about how many nipples you had. Is that part of the disease, the disorder? Or is that just?
I think it must be. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's in, but it'd be weird if it wasn't linked somehow.
So how many nipples do you have?
Well, 3, I think. But I think the joke I make is like, when you start having more than 2, then it becomes an issue of what actually is a nipple. Like, how do you distinguish between a birthmark and a nipple? But I say 3, but it's been, people have gone up as high as 6. So, who knows where we stand.
Yeah. So you did comedy then, and what did you feel the first time you got on stage and first time you actually stood in front of a crowd? And obviously, as comics, you know when you've done well, if you've got self-awareness. Some comics have got no self-awareness and think that they've done really well, when in fact they've actually done particularly well. What was that feeling like for you the first time you smashed it on stage?
Oh, it's amazing feeling, isn't it? It's incredible. I think particularly because I was a bit of a shy kid, wasn't very confident, and then you go on stage and suddenly you're you're playing to 300 people at the uni and you kill it, then it just feels unbelievable. It's such an adrenaline rush. And then I think I just basically decided I wanted to do stand up. That was the moment where I think nothing's going to feel as good as this. I want to do it more. And like I say, and I did quite well quickly, 100%, because I had different things to talk about than most people. Because I was at university, most of my peers were doing jokes about necking Jaeger bombs or do you know what I mean? Stuff that's very conventional. And I was able to say, I've got shitloads of nipples. I was in a gang called the Blazing Bangladeshis. And you know what I mean? I just had because I went to predominantly Asian school, I was in a gang for a bit called the Blazing Bangladeshis, and just talking about my life would just make people laugh. And it wasn't even I had to find the jokes particularly; they were just all there waiting, really. Yeah.
So did you finish uni? I can't remember. It's so long ago. Did you actually finish?
I finished uni, yeah. But and the good thing, but already then I was thinking of moving to Manchester and doing Edinburgh and all that sort of stuff. So I was aware that I wanted to be a stand-up comic, really. And the good thing about doing comedy from uni is you've not got any money. So it's so many people try and do comedy leaving a good job. And that's so hard because you've got used to a standard of living. Whereas because I was coming straight from uni, I was so up for being on a mega bus and eating beans. You know what I mean? There wasn't, I didn't need any shit really. So that was very helpful.
Because did you stay in Newcastle after uni?
I went to Manchester because Newcastle's brilliant, but it's hard to gig because it's so far away from everywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas Manchester, you're an hour away from Leeds, an hour away from loads of cities, so you can just plop yourself there and then just get a train everywhere, really.
Yeah. So before you left and broke our hearts by leaving Newcastle, rewinding a few years to when we first met, your speech was completely different to what it is now. What happened there? Because obviously that's part of the soda. Can you explain how that came about? What did they do? Did they do plastic surgery? Did they fish some skin out of your mouth? Or what did they do?
So when I was So when I was like 16, I don't think this is related, I don't think, but it is weird. They took a bit of bone from my hip and put it in my mouth. But to this day, I don't know why the fuck they did that. But then what the surgery that changed my speech was I got like jaw realignment surgery because I had quite a bad underbite. So they like, I don't know which way around they did it. Either they grabbed my back jaw, moved it forward, or moved my back jaw back or whatever. But basically, they just aligned my jaw. And that was partly done for cosmetic reasons, partly to help me speak. So when we were kicking around, it was very funny because I was like an 18, 19-year-old student, and Sai was like a 30-year-old or however old you were, like Geordie.
Yeah.
And it's like there was no other way other than comedy we could have met Sai.
Yeah.
Like we were so polar opposite, and it was real, and we just went clubbing together.
Yeah. It just got wrecked, and yeah. Did all
we went to that guy's house who can we talk about this, or do you want to
talk about whatever we want, mate? Whatever, as long as we don't name people, we can talk about whatever we want. Yeah.
So remember we went to that guy's house and bumped into, you know, that female comic now who is I don't know if she does it, but she's Newcastle based, and we went to and she was on her first date with that weirdo.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes,
that was so funny, and you were really proud of yourself because you didn't nick anything from it.
Yeah, we turned up with a really posh flat, and I really wanted to steal all that special booze, but I didn't. That was good.
He was a proper twat as well, wasn't he? Well, did he lie? Did he? Oh, that's right. He said he was a comic too or something, didn't he?
Well, what happened is we're going to mention her because she's one of our friends, Catherine Tanny. Yeah. She went on a date. This was years and years ago, and she just started doing stand up. So me and Johnny knew her from the open mic stand up scene in Newcastle. And she'd been on a date with someone, a blind date or a date nap or something, I don't know for sure. And she'd met this guy who claimed he was a professional stand-up comedian. And we're like, well, me and Johnny are bound to know who he is. And then there was this guy who's introduced, and it was just like, yeah, no, I've never ever seen you ever.
Sai kept trying to make him do jokes, and he just didn't have any. And then the guy said he was like really big in Thailand or something. Didn't he say it was like massive in Thailand?
Yeah, like a TV name in Thailand. That's so nice. Yeah, well, I kept trying to persuade him. The more we got drunk, I was persuading him to do stand-up material. Yeah. And he could see he'd never done stand-up in his life, and he was trying to come up with this material. And I started filming him, and it was
really good. Yeah, he was.
Don't we have to say some jokes or something? Isn't that?
That's what you're meant to do, yeah. But he obviously had just. Catherine had mentioned that she was just starting doing stand up, and he must have just been a compulsive liar and went, "Oh yeah, I do that. I'm a TV name in Thailand."
I had a friend like that who was a wonderful guy and trustworthy, but he just for some reason always compulsively had to say that lie. That made 10 become 1,000, and made I'm going to work for Google or something. Always had to be like that little extra, and eventually about it. So
yeah, there's quite a lot of that on the comedy scene. You normally find it with the open mic scene, Brander. It's like where people first start out on their journey. So brand newcomers, there's events where just especially for newcomers, and often especially Newcastle being a small city, with it being like a major city, but it's quite small, so you'll pretty much get to know everybody who's starting out because there's only like a handful of local gigs, and you do find that the comedy scene, same with the acting drama scene, attracts a lot of characters who aren't sometimes intentionally funny, but are hilarious for many other reasons.
Yeah.
You could always tell when act like that, because there was a night called Red Raw, which was at a place called the Stand Comedy Club in Newcastle, and they'd get like 300 people on, and there'd be these people going who were just totally shit. And you'd only just be able to hear the comics howling at the back. There's 300 people like stone faced, but comics find nothing funnier than seeing someone else just really struggle.
Yeah, it's the best thing ever. It is, because you say to people, "Oh, smash it, have a good one," but you don't mean it. There's nothing better than watching someone really struggle on stage.
Yeah. Seeing your friend having a good gig is nothing. Seeing your friend have an awful gig is joy.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
when I come to visit, maybe we hook it up, and I'll go on stage for the first time and see how horribly I'm gonna bomb.
Yeah, definitely, because especially because we can just wheel you on, and you can't even bail. You can't even wheel yourself off. But it'd be even funnier if I had to come and get you with me little walking stick.
I got an idea. How about you?
Wheel you off waving.
You wheel me on, and then I just start like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. Can you come and get me?
Because there's not a chance in hell I would come and get you. No way. You'd be staying on for that full 10 minutes. You would be doing it. You wouldn't be getting ready.
I'd be stuff like, please, somebody. You there, sitting there. Yeah, you're looking at me. Can you please? Okay, never.
It's easy, man. Easy, Branda.
Do you remember that guy who, at the stand, he walked on, and then it was his first ever gig or something, and he walked on and he couldn't get it out. He couldn't say his first word, and he just panicked and walked off. And then he got a massive reaction. Everyone was like, "Come back, come back!" And then there was so much goodwill in the room for this guy. And he came back on, and then his first words were something like, "All women are slags, aren't they?" And all the room was loving him. And then he just said that. And it was so
brilliant. Yeah, there's been some, especially like in the 2000 and the early teen years, the 2010 to about 2013, when you could get away with more, I suppose there was lots of acts who'd just be so inappropriate, and the audience would just not go for it. But again, the comics backstage would just be howling.
Yeah, I've never seen the energy of a room shift so quickly. Because they were so on his side. They're like, "Come on, you can do this."
Do you remember that guy that was dressed as a snake?
Yeah.
The guy just come on dressed in a full snake outfit and then started doing really, really bad one-liners, not even related to being a snake. It's just
brilliant.
It's crazy times. It was fun.
So I'll wear a costume. I'll be a nun.
Yeah, paralyzed nun. Yeah, definitely. Why not? Yeah.
And I'll tell really dirty jokes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
100%. So Jonny, what you moved, you left, you broke our hearts, you left Newcastle to pursue the bright lights of Manchester. You done obviously pretty on the inside with myself and Lee, Edinburgh Festival 2013. That was before any kind of TV appearance. What was next? Was that when you won the BBC New Comedy Award? Was that the next year?
I think
it was around that time.
We won that. Oh no, I didn't win it. I got to the final, but I think that was 20. It all gets mixed up. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But basically, I was like in Newcastle. I was just sort of dicking around, really doing the odd gig, but mainly just doing university and drinking and having a good time. And then went to Manchester to try and pursue it more professionally. And so just moved into a house show and just started gigging. And at that stage, you just take gigs everywhere for like 40 quid or whatever. So I just gigged a lot. Then I went up and did my first like Edinburgh show, like full hour-long show. And then from there, probably, I started getting a bit of more TV stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your first show?
So the first show was actually called Before and After, and it was actually about my decision to get the surgery on my jaw, because it was elective surgery. And basically, I mean, I do a joke about it, but essentially what happened was around like 18, I got a letter from the NHS, which is a publicly funded organisation, obviously, paid for through general taxation, essentially saying that if I wanted, I could have cosmetic surgery, which is obviously quite a damning a letter to get, because it's essentially saying, it's essentially saying like, get you can have surgery if you want. So I oomed and ahed about that, and the show was really about deciding whether or not I wanted to get the surgery, really.
And I mean that's without. This is the part where I've got to be careful what I say. Just more so for before the surgery, you looked completely different to how you look now. Now you look almost normal.
I'd say more normal than you, Si.
Yeah, 100%. I've got no qualms about that. But no, that surgery did massively, drastically affect your speech and your appearance.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Did you care? Because you've never been a particularly vain person in your dress sense. I'm not saying you're a tramp or anything, but I'm just
I didn't think you were until now.
So how did that? Because that was obviously a massive change. How did that affect you? Did it give you more confidence or?
I guess so. I mean, all these things are so like unclear. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I was more confident after that. But I guess they all happened around the same time where I was sort of starting to do well in comedy. I had the surgery, and also like you say, I'm not very like it definitely didn't make me go, now I'm hot. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like so I don't know. I'm sure it had a big impact, but like tracing actually what that impact was, I'm not that clear about. If that, because it's all like it's difficult to draw like causation, isn't it? It's all like chucked into a massive pot and swirled around, and then you can't be like, well, that led to more confidence here.
What about on stage? Because you when before the surgery, you weren't like great. Obviously, with my accent, I can definitely understand the fact that some people find me inaudible. Do you know what I mean? Some people have to really slow down what I say on stage if I'm not in the Northeast. So for you, because I know you had to slow right down, didn't you, when you were speaking?
Yeah.
Would that be like a freedom that you could? I don't mean necessarily be a zany, wacky, quick comic book.
I think it definitely meant that I had to, like, when I started, my writing had to be really good. Like, so I just turned on a light with my foot. That was impressive. When I started, I had to make my writing really good because I wasn't able to speak quickly. So it was like every joke, I would write out my set. A lot of comics don't do that. I would write out like every word because I was always thinking like, if I can get rid of a word, that just gets to the punchline quicker because I have to speak slower. And for sure now, I'm a lot more loose on stage and, I write less like carefully now. Like I'll go on now with an idea and just talk around it and see what's funny and then edit it through doing that. Whereas when I started, that just wasn't an option. It just had to be really concise.
Interesting when you say that. I kind of remember when I started losing my lung capacity. So it's improved a lot, but there was a period where I would have to like lean my head back, take in a breath, go up, and then I could talk until the air was finished from my lungs. I really learned how to speak in few words.
Yeah.
Even though I always had a lot to say, but I think that was a useful period.
Yes, like every word counts.
It kind of teaches you to kind of, think about what you're saying.
I think so, yeah, and certainly edit. And like you were saying, you're just like, what's the idea I'm trying to give to these people, and how can I say that succinctly? It becomes like such an important job because if there's too much like nonsense, you're just screwed really because the audience will just switch off.
Yeah. Because I remember during that show that we did, the Stand in 2013, it was a show that started at 12 noon. And basically, just across the road from us, a fantastic comic called Bridget Christie was doing her, which then went on to be the award-winning show that year. She was doing her show at the same time as us across the road. So the only footfall we really got was people that couldn't get into her show that had sold out would wander across and go, oh, what's this? Oh, pretty on the inside. That sounds different. And sometimes there was like 3 or 4 people in the audience. And we used to take it in turns, didn't we, Johnny, of like going on and hosting and whatnot. And that's when you started experimenting, didn't you? And you'd, like, sometimes you wouldn't even do your set and you would start chatting more to the audience. Was that the first time you'd really started doing that?
I like that.
Yeah, it probably was, because the good thing about Edinburgh is that it's like a month, so it goes on for a month, and you do a gig every day. Sometimes like 2 or 3, 4, 5 gigs a day. And like a lot of time when you're starting, there's so much pressure on gigs to go well because you want to get booked in by the club. So like when you're starting, you get like a 10-minute slot, and if that goes well, they book you to like a paid 20 or like a bit of money for 15 minutes. But clubs are so competitive. If it goes badly, you just get put to the back of their list for like a year. So there's so much pressure to go do well that I was incredibly scripted, and I just say my jokes. Whereas in Edinburgh, you can just be a lot more loose. And like you say, in a way, when there's like only 5 people there and none of them have come to see you and they want to hear a sort of feminist show about a biro, then, you know, when you're able just to sort of rock on, you just, and also it'd be mad to play it without addressing the fact there's only 5 people there. You know what I mean? You just have to go, this is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of makes you break that character and break that
Totally.
that linear thing of your set, doesn't it? And it makes you chat more and develops your skill set.
Yeah, because I just recently I was in London and I saw the funniest. It's like an American comic. There was like 4 people in, and it was in like a Mexican restaurant, and they were serving Mexican food as this guy was on stage. And he was playing it like it was the O2, and he was doing like political stuff about how like we need to impeach Donald Trump and stuff. But he was just yelling about American foreign policy into your politics in a Mexican restaurant without once addressing the fact there was only 4 people there. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
I do. I love that when people just still go for it.
Yeah. He could have taken any room. He was going to tell us what he thought about Donald Trump.
It's going to change the world. It's brilliant. I do. I love that. I do. I miss all that about the circuit in the scene. But yeah, like I say, I mentioned you. I thought anyway, you're always destined to be successful. If anything, you've kind of fucked it up for yourself quite a lot by not being confident enough and being pushy and being one of these showbiz people and hobnobbing. You could have been huge a lot quicker. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But you've done it your way, and you've certainly carved out your fan base. But the last, I don't know if it was the last show or one of your most recent shows, got quite a bit of critical acclaim because you went on to discuss the subject of child abuse that you suffered. Now, that was a nice little segue from some hilarious anecdotes about a Mexican restaurant. Now, can you tell us about being abused?
Yes, I can. Well, so I guess I was sexually abused by a teenager who lived pretty close to me when I was about 8. So I mean, and I guess I think that had a big impact on me. And so I disassociate a lot, which is why I think I don't care about my appearance and things like that very much. And so I feel like I had all that surgery when I was like 7 on my legs. And then I sort of dissociated through that because my body was in a lot of pain. And then obviously with the abuse, I also dissociated through that. So I think one of the things in the last like 5 years, because I went to therapy about it and started dealing with it, because I hadn't, up to that point, I hadn't had sex as an adult. So it definitely had an impact on my sexuality where I hated being touched by other human beings, really, which is never ideal. And so then I went to therapy about it, and then I started sort of dealing with it. And now one of the main things is I do a lot of like meditation and stuff like that to try and get back into my body, because I think that's I think as a kid I was like, shit, my body is in pain, let's escape it. But actually, obviously, when you're not present in your body, so I'm very emotionally numb, I'd say. Like I don't get that sad or that happy. I just stay quite like level. And so a lot of it's been recently been trying to get back into my body and about sort of processing and just finding ways to connect to myself and feel things more clearly, really.
I'd love to hear more about that. I think that's what I'm going through now. Like in a way, like for different reasons, of course. But
yeah.
When my body stopped moving, I just went into my head.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to work out and everything, but I still don't fully inhabit this body. So I'm very interested to learn any techniques that you've developed for meditation.
Well, I think I'm still very much at the beginning of that. So that's the new, because I tried things like, I tried lots of therapy, and the first bit of the therapy was just realizing that it was abusive, because I'd always describe it as a thing we did together, and I just avoided it and minimized it. So I just wouldn't think about it. And when I was like, it wasn't that big a deal. So then when going to therapy and being like, oh, that was actually sexual abuse and has had quite a big impact on me. then I did that, and I got to that stage, and then I sort of left therapy for a bit because I was like, right, I think I'm going to do that. And then I've just recently gone back to therapy now, and a lot of that is, it sounds all that sort of wanky stuff that is different. Like it's all like breathing and like mindfulness and meditation and yoga, and it all sounds sort of. I've always been quite reticent because it always sounds quite like very zeitgeisty and not very scientific and a bit hippie-ish. But actually, when I meditate in the morning, I'm so much more present and sort of focused during the day. And it's like literally all I do is like I can only do like 5 minutes because otherwise my mind just goes too like bored. But just like 5 minutes in the morning, and it's like like a line of the day goes that way as opposed to that way. And even though it's a tiny difference, it just makes such a big impact on my day, really. But I'm very much at the beginning of it, so I definitely couldn't give any expert advice.
No.
Do you think it's because of the comedy approach that you find it a bit wanky? Because I'm the same. I struggle with serious approaches. But I mean, with this podcast, I've really wanted to try and talk about all the dark stuff, but and get it all out there and that. But for you, was it not? I don't want to say easier, but was it not more accessible to talk because both your parents were both in psychology? That's right, isn't it?
So both my parents are therapists, but interestingly, I didn't tell them about it until I was 25. So like, even though, so I think how I dealt with it was like, I've got very bad. I've almost known, like, I don't know how it began. I don't know how it ended. I don't know how many times it happened. And so I have like memories of it, but my timeline is fucked up around it. Like I don't have a clear, coherent time stamp for when it happened. And then I just disassociate. So in a lot of my life, I'd have quite sort of vivid daydreams. I'd just live in this fantasy world of like, like me being like a footballer or being like winning an Oscar or something. And I just spend hours disassociating into that daydream world. Do you do that as well? Yeah. So
if I'm bored, I just make something up to keep myself entertained.
I'm exactly the same. And so then I guess the issue was, I later learned for me was that I was getting my emotional connection to the world through my daydreams rather than through actually living, and that was why I went to therapy, because when I went to therapy, I was 25. I was living in a squat, it was really fun. It was very hedonistic, quite a lot of drugs and alcohol and things, which was fun. But I'd not had sex as an adult. I wasn't that like. It was only the abstract idea. It wasn't like an internal thought of I want to have sex. It was just the abstract feeling that I'm going to die having never had sex, which freaked me out. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was like an intellectual thing of holy shit. If I keep up this way I am, I'm just going to get to like 80 and have never been in a relationship with anyone. Yeah. And so that's what sort of drew me to therapy. And then when I was in therapy, I started talking about the abuse and that, and then. And I can't tell you, I mean, if anyone's suffered abuse, what an impact talking about it made. It sort of changed everything for me, really.
Cool.
So did speaking about it on stage then just become a natural progression? Because I know I find it easier to talk about things in a self-derogatory manner, in a way that can be, if there's like a not a punchline, but if it's like funny, I like to, do you know what I mean? Like I can discuss things easier without that feeling like I'm yearning for pity. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, so I think you don't really choose what type of comic you are, do you? And I'm definitely just like an autobiographical comic.
Just carry on, Johnny. I think you'll settle back down in a minute.
I'm definitely an autobiographical comic. So, and I wrote a show in like, I can't remember when, that was just shit, really. And it was me trying to talk about this stuff without talking about the abuse. And so it was me being like, I'm bad with women, blah, blah, blah. But it was without the abuse, it just sounded like I was just being a sort of middle class white wanker.
Okay, mate.
Has he got to go?
You'll come back in.
Okay. So I did a show when I wasn't talking about the abuse, but I was sort of into therapy, trying to find a relationship and stuff like that. And I was talking about how bad I am with women and blah, blah, blah. But because I wasn't talking about the abuse, it just felt such a stereotypical, I'm a white middle class man who's bad with women. And, and it was just bollocks, really. Yeah. And so then I just started writing about actually what was going on. And I didn't write at the start of the show because I was like, the context of the show is that I was abused and this is why all these things happen. And the show basically charts me going from like not being in a relationship, living in a squat, my career sort of not going very well, to, ending up in a relationship, moving out of the squat, career going better. So it's that journey. And it luckily it did well. And I guess it was never flippant or minimal. I never want to minimize it or be flippant about the impact of abuse. But I also wanted to say, this, like the number of people it happens to is insane. Like it's hard to get accurate stats, but some people say it's like 1 in 6 or 1 in 10 or 1 in 20. But whatever the actual number is, it's like fuckloads of kids are being sexually abused, and we're scared to talk about it because it makes us feel uncomfortable. And because of that, people keep being abused. And it's like, so one of the things I wanted to do with the show is I wanted to write a sort of funny show about this issue that could get sort of, mainstream success. And I think I talked about it when I did Live at the Apollo, and that felt like a great thing to be able to bring that sort of shit into the mainstream and go, look, this is happening and we need to talk about it. And, I'm going to sort of do some jokes about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't get more mainstream to bring it in than the biggest stand-up show in Europe, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Live prime time on BBC One, you can't.
Totally, and it felt like, it just feels like something we need to find a way to talk about, really.
Yeah. So what did you find that the feedback after that? How did you get any letters of support or people saying, "Oh, it's happened to me," or what was like?
Loads. I mean, I got a lot, and it was really nice. And I think it's just a privilege that people can talk to you about it. And I guess, I mean, it can be quite sort of like after gigs and stuff. A lot of people often talk to me about their experiences, and sometimes it's like I'm the first person they've ever told, and so that's a bit like it can be a bit intense. Like are you all right?
I'm saying, can it be that be a bit of a weight for you to carry as well, especially if you come off a funny environment?
And I guess I'm not a therapist, and also particularly like when you're doing Edinburgh and you've got your own stuff going on, and you're thinking, how did the show go, and what jokes working, what jokes not working. So I just hang out in my dressing room for a while. But I mean, I guess it's such a privilege, and there's been so many people who've got in touch to say, that they've had similar experiences and things like that, because it is so sort of scarily common.
It's weird because I didn't know about this. You obviously we were quite close for a long time. We were working together, and you just never mentioned it. This thing, obviously not at the same level. The kind of abuse I had, I would say, was more just weird psychological behaviour, and I kind of didn't mention it. And there's certain things that come up now and then. I go, shit, that did happen. Why haven't I even thought about that? Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, I must have blocked it out. Did you tell anyone before you talking to the therapist? Did you ever speak to people about it or
not? Occasionally I'd get like drunk and tell someone. Like I remember I told George Zach, who's a Greek comic, I was just hammered and with his girl, he was with like a girlfriend or like a friend or someone. And I mean, I'd never met her before, so she thought I was fucking crackers. But I think there was a time before I told the therapist, there was a couple-year period where I'd get a bit drunk and occasionally tell someone in a way that was not normal. You know what I mean? Like someone who it wasn't that safe to, it was just a stranger. Like, like a bit like you were saying, it's easier to tell jokes to a crowd because you're anonymous, because rather than tell. That was sort of what I was doing. I'd get pissed and tell someone I didn't know very well about it as a way to sort of begin to talk about it, but not because obviously you tell like your mum or your best mate, it's a really fucking big deal because that's gonna be such a big thing. Once you just tell a randomer in a pub, it's like they're gonna think, oh, that guy's a bit weird, but it's not gonna change your life if their reaction isn't great.
And you hadn't told your parents at that point either?
No, so I told my parents Well, after I'd literally started writing jokes about it when I told my parents.
Fucking hell. So this again is going to sound wanky, but have you got any advice for others who are in a similar situation? Like, do you think you're able to give advice now, looking back and what have
I
you?
guess the thing is if you can tell someone, try and tell someone. I think because as soon as I told someone, it's like when you tell someone, then you can start looking at it, and it's such a scary thing to look at that you just avoid it. That's what I did. I was like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I'll just eat a pizza and do whatever.
Have you heard about tapping therapy? Where like
What's that, sorry?
I don't know. There's another name for it, but it's called tapping. Like the idea behind it is to create a disassociation between the memory of the event and the trauma that goes with it, so that you're able to kind of relive the event in your memory without engaging in the emotional response.
Yeah, I think is that called EMDR?
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
So I think so I've tried that, but what I learned in EMDR is that so EMDR is a type of therapy, like you were saying, where you sort of go back to the memory, but try and normalize the feelings for it or something. But because I disassociated through it, that's quite a poor explanation. But because I disassociated, I didn't have access to like the original memory, if that makes sense. Like I had just flashes, but I didn't have a sense of how I felt as it was happening to me. So it didn't really work for me because I was totally like I had to like imagine how I felt rather than feel how I felt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, go on.
No, you take over.
I've heard that EMDR therapy can be incredibly successful. It's got insanely high success rate. So, I mean, if you are struggling with trauma, it'd be really worth checking out because, the results are really good for it.
Yeah, I've heard good things from people who have tried it, and I've known some people who have come to me and like told me like, bad shit, and it is kind of difficult to hear those kinds of stories. So I'm sure you're doing a lot of good, and I know it's not easy, but it's.
And I think what's good for me is because of the dissociation, I can talk about it quite dispassionately. Like I'm definitely not. It doesn't keep me up at night, or it doesn't. Like I say, I'm very emotionally numb or emotionally dead, and so like talking about, I find it like I'm not like choking up. I'm not remotely. Like I'll leave this chat and just go and eat some food and watch some football and not think about it again. But so I think that's one of the negatives of it was that I'm sort of emotionally numb. But I guess the benefit of it is I can be a good person to talk about it because it doesn't impact me particularly. I mean, it doesn't like dysregulate me.
I don't know. Maybe somebody can post some kind of local hotline or something. I think those. I know we have one in Iceland that helps people with trauma that is leading to depression, and I know that they've provided some free services and done a lot of good. And I don't remember what their name is.
Yeah, I'll definitely put links of any resources I can find in the comments for if anyone's having similar things. And I mean, it is now widely more acceptable to open up to if you're an abuse victim, and I think a lot. I don't know personally, but I think a lot of it is to do with people's fear of not being believed, or I don't know. Was that one of yours, Jonny, or was it just a case of you buried it?
I think just buried it, and then I think the hard thing is like I guess like telling your parents, it's going to devastate them and they're going to blame themselves and feel shit about themselves. So it's like that thing of like, do I want to burden these people that I love with this knowledge that something really shit happened to me when they were sort of will see themselves as supposed to protect me from that. So there's a lot of like and also when you're telling your mates, there's just a lot of thing of just you just rather a pint. You know what I mean? Like so it's like it's like often the time just doesn't feel right to bring it up when you just have most mates now you see like 5 or 6 times a year. Do you want to spend one of those times being like something terrible happened to me? So there's lots of things. Yeah.
So how did your parents react?
I think they were very upset and very they were just very upset really, and they believed me. I never doubted they wouldn't believe me.
Of course.
And they was very upset and very sorry, and and Yes, I think that's how they were really. It's a bit of a devastating blow.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine it's fucking great for, and being a parent, I can't imagine ever hearing that news, like, and not wanting to go out and murder someone. Do you know what I mean? Not wanting to strangle someone to death for what they've done. Like, it's so, yeah. What someone with cheers for being so frank and open and honest, mate. I know you are that way, but do appreciate that. But now we're coming up to the end now, so what I'd like to do is kind of bring it back to positivity and ask Jonny Pelham. You've done probably more than you thought you would have done when you first won the Chris Comedy Xmas Factor Gong Show in 2010. I don't suppose you then would have thought you would have had your own sitcom, been on all the big TV panel shows. You've done all that. What is next for the J-Dog?
What is next? I think I've got another. I think I want to tour. Like, so I'm going on my first tour, and I love like having like, because most of the time you do like weekend comedy clubs, which is like 20 minutes. Everyone's hammered, and they're fun, but I really want to establish myself as like a touring act who can do like little art centres or, the Stand in Newcastle and sell out like, a couple hundred tickets everywhere. So I'm on my first tour, which is, selling like 40 or 50 most places. So it's not like a mega hit, but I just building that up to a stage where I've got like people who come and watch me. I think it's the long-term aim of the next like 5 or 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think you should. This is obviously me giving advice when it's not even my place to give it. Given how our careers have both went in different directions, but you need to focus on definitely the social media aspect, because all the shows that you've been on them all. You should have millions of followers, and you should really push it.
I think
that's not you. That's just not you, is it? That's not.
It's not me. I'm trying to get better. Every like week or so, I get a ticket sales update, and it is turning me into a commodity where I'm like, right, I need to go on Instagram and put up a video. But it's never going to be my natural forte. But I think you're right. I think all that shit, you've just got to do it, haven't you, and play the game of like Instagram and Twitter. So that I'm trying to learn that.
Before we end, I demand that you both tell at least one joke to prove that.
Oh no!
One joke.
I don't really. And all my jokes are just sad stories.
Yeah, in mine, you've heard all mine, like all the shit that I've talked about. I talk about that on stage, but I do it wearing a pair of wacky glasses and like a comedy hat. So that's about as best you're gonna get. So Jonny, is there anything you see you want to do a little tour around little venues now? Do you not want to sell out the arenas? Do you not want to do the O2? Do you not want to? Do you want to be in movies? Do you want to write movies, sitcoms?
I'd love to write sitcoms. So I'm writing a few scripts right now. So I definitely want to write. I love writing because I feel like in stand-up, it's one of the best thing about stand-up is that it's your voice and it's completely your perspective on the world. But also that can be a bit like limiting. So scripts, you can have like a stupid guy, and you can have a, you can. So I love writing scripts. I definitely love to get a sitcom properly made. And get into more writing comedy. So I think those are the two strands. I want to become like a touring artist and a sitcom writer is, my two sort of strands I'm trying to hit really.
Yeah, I mean, with your first sitcom, if you had wrote me into your first sitcom, then no doubt it would have been like a huge, do you know what I mean, BAFTA winning thing. But I was forgotten about, mate.
Cast aside.
Yeah, cast aside. Yeah. Sorry, Brandon, I cut you off there, mate.
No, I was just wondering if you both had like comedian you are inspired by or look up to, or
for me it's Sai. Sai is my inspiration.
Thanks, mate. And I've got to say it's Jonny. And yeah. No, what I like, and I think I speak for Jonny here. I'm not really. I like loads of the mainstream big comics and that I do, but what I prefer, what my passion is, and I imagine Jonny's the same, is watching brand new weird acts and being in awkward positions on stage and saying stuff that really shouldn't stay and laughing backstage with other comics. They are my favorite acts. Yeah, they're the favorite thing I love to watch.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. It's just the weird, because comedy is like so commercial now, but it still really should just be a place for sort of oddballs to get up and be weird.
Yeah.
And that's when you see that, it's great. It's just, yeah, it's perfect.
It's ideal. I was going to say, would you like to give any words to new expired comics? But nah, fuck them. You don't need any more competition.
Be weird.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Jonny, mate, once again, thank you for being on, being so frank, being so candid. Have you had something to plug? You've forgotten already, haven't you? You're going to plug a tour date that you had.
I do. I don't know what the date is. I'm doing the Newcastle stand. I'm basically tour dates on my website, jonnypelham.com. I'm doing Newcastle, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Bristol, London, loads of other places. So just go on my website and check it out, and you will see the show I've been talking about today.
Right, there will be a link in the comments to Jonny's website and all Jonny's tour dates and all his socials where you can go follow him, get him up there, get him even build his profile even more. So, Jonny, thanks very much for joining us today.
Nice to meet you.
It, mate.
Great to meet you too. Thanks so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Spot on, mate. And Branda, thank you as always, buddy. And for everyone watching, we are exclusively on YouTube now. Nobody listens to the podcast. Everyone just watches it. So please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell button, share it around and that. Leave comments to fool the algorithm and try and get us some views and get us some ad revenue. And guys, we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Abnormies. Cheers, everyone. See you later.
Cheers, guys. See you in a bit. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.